Hello, this is Enlight Mike, and this is Music Theory from the Beginning. And this is episode 2. So, this first part is going to be some review of our material from episode 1. Now we're going to go through this quickly. We're going to talk about the musical alphabet, what it is, completely, and how we use it to build all our keys. Now, this time we're talking about major keys. We will cover modes and we will cover intervals. We will cover chord construction. We'll even cover the chords, how you name chords eventually. This one, we're only going to get to the musical alphabet and the keys. But that's huge. It's amazing how many people, professional musicians, professional instructors, on YouTube and other places, can't seem to figure out how many keys they are. Now, when I'm done with this, when you're done watching this, you're going to know how many keys there are. Because all you have to do is take the notes and make as many keys as you can. And it's like, well, I did the math. That's all there is. You can't make any more. So let's get started. Here we have the musical alphabet. Now you might wonder, what do you mean the musical alphabet? Is there 7? I thought you said there was 12. And didn't you tell us octave means 8? Haha. Yes, there is 7. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are the only letters that make up the musical alphabet. So there's 7 letters. However, we always add one more. Add? This isn't math. We repeat the first note. Now, in episode 1, we called the first note the fundamental. We're going to call it the root note now. Now, the reason it's the root note is because once you get to playing songs, the root note is the note that you're using as your home note, your home chord, that everything comes back to. But it's not necessarily your fundamental. The fundamental is the lowest. This note is the next highest. It's the first octave of this note. And in music theory, when we see a scale like this, we're always going up in pitch. In real music, we go up, down, sideways, and around. Okay? So here's what our 8 notes look like. We always repeat the first note, and it's always higher when we're building scales. Now, we will get to that at a later date. I'm going to say that multiple times because music goes round and round and round in circles. So hang on tight, because this may be the first time you've seen this information, but if you keep going with me, you're going to keep seeing the same information coming round and round and round. Pretty soon it doesn't seem so complicated. Okay, so real quickly we're going to cover the scale degrees. Now, you will hear the term, the name for the 5th degree. That is called the dominant. Whether it's a note, or whether it's a triad chord, or whether it's a 4-note chord called the 7th. The 7 chord, it's the dominant. Dominant note, dominant chord, dominant 7th. I know. There's another point of confusion. Lots of people are confused about that. They think if a major chord is a 7 chord, then that's a dominant 7. It is. Because you've only got 3 major chords. The C and the F and the G in the key of C. And only the G has a flat 7. It's not a dominant 7. It's the chord that's a dominant 7. The 7 is a flat 7. Whereas the F and the C have a leading tone. Their 7th note is only 1/2 step lower than them. It's a leading tone. Whereas the G, its 7th is 2/2 steps. Okay, so we're gonna just real quickly run through this. Tonic, both the root and its octave are called the tonic. Between the dominant and the tonic, that's the middle, and so it's named the mediant. Now, right below the dominant, we call it the subdominant. And between the subdominant and the higher tonic, we have another middle. This one's called the submediant. Subdominant, submediant. Dominant, mediant. Subdominant, submediant. Now, that only leaves one above the tonic, supertonic, one below the tonic, subtonic. Now, you might have noticed that I moved my mouse up to the A scale because this is a minor scale, and therefore the G is 2/2 steps below the A and is therefore a subtonic. The B is only a 1/2 step from the C, and therefore it is not a subtonic, it's a leading tone. So this 7th degree actually has 2 names. Now, normally you won't hear these names a lot. You'll hear the dominant, and now you know what it really means. And you might hear the leading tone quite frequently because that's important. The tonic, you might hear that some, but mostly it's our root note. All right, so now here we have the our scale laid out starting with A. Now, this shows us the actual relative spacing. So we have space between every pair here except for the BC and the EF. That is important to remember. Now, what are the names of these extra 5 notes if we don't use any other letter names? Well, if you start with the A and you raise it by 1/2 step, you add a sharp sign and you call it A sharp. A sharp, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. However, if you start with the A and you lower it 1/2 step, then we call it a flat. A flat, G flat, E flat, D flat, and B flat. And that gives us our complete musical alphabet. Now, it's interesting. We still don't have an absolute name for 5 of these notes. So, how are we going to figure out which one to use? Like right here, A sharp or B flat. What would we call that? Well, let's find out. We're going to build our keys, and that will actually show us which one we need. But first, the key rules. No, those aren't the most important rules. Those are the rules about keys. We use each of the 7-letter names. We don't skip one. And we never repeat a letter name. So, as we build these, you'll see how that guides us.